Hey everybody, welcome back to Leosophy. This is the first of the self-improvement general. Um, I'm excited about it. And I thought for the first one, I would talk about physical health. It was kind of a toss-up. There are so many facets of self-improvement, but I thought, what are some things that I recommend that can be done to improve physical health? So, right off the bat, and this is my weakest one, would be cardio. I hate cardio. I have hated running since I was a kid, but it is good for you. And I make sure that I do uh, several types of cardio 3 times a week, the bulk of which just involves either a Peloton machine or whatever that is called at the gym or a treadmill. On days where my legs are too sore or I've been very physically exerted or I simply don't have time, a lot of times I'll just go on walks. And I think going walks is great. In fact, going walks is probably the number one thing I recommend most because it's good physically, but it's also good mentally. So I think walks is probably one of the best things anybody can do, and nobody really talks about it a lot. How great walks are. People love to talk about meditation, which I will be talking about in another episode. People love to talk about uh, physical exercise that's much more intensive, which is also great. And I'm talking about this episode. But nobody talks as much about walks, which really bridge both, and it's very easy to do. My big recommendation would be to either go on solitary walks for approximately 30 minutes to an hour every day, if you can, preferably outside in a natural setting. Going on walks indoors is something people can do. I know some people who, for example, will do this at, like, say, a mall. They'll just walk around a lot without buying anything. They'll just go on a lengthy little trip. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I do think that exposing yourself to nature is extremely good for your psychological well being, as well as getting adequate sunshine, especially if you're a guy, is good for building test. And it's just one of those things that, again, it's very underrated. Going for walks is great for you. But again, cardio 3 times a week, if you can, is also really good for you. It's especially the key there is not doing something that's hard on your feet or ankles, but doing something that raises your heart rate, particularly your resting heart rate over time, because the slower your heart pumps, generally the healthier you are, at least in a cardiovascular sense. Additionally, it's important because you never know when you're going to have to exert yourself to that degree. So it's always a great idea to engage in cardio. I know some people are very anti cardio. They say that it kills gains, but it doesn't. And that leads me to the other thing that I recommend. Also, 3 days a week. So, really, one day a week you shouldn't be doing either, or you don't have to do either. But I like to alternate 3 days a week, one cardio, one uh, bodybuilding, I guess, non cardio. Uh, and I think that one's a little more challenging because cardio is pretty much across the board. People who jog, as far as I know, don't have a rivalry with people who ride bicycles. That being said, when it comes to building muscle, there's a lot of debate. Personally, this is just personally. I know at least one person is going to leave a negative comment because of this, but personally, I like powerlifting. I like getting bigger, heavier weights. I like deadlifts. I like squats. I like bench, although I don't really like bench nearly as much as I like deadlifts. And I just enjoy that. And by the way, if you have back issues or you're scared of doing it wrong and you don't have somebody to teach you the proper form, which I also cannot emphasize enough, you need to learn proper form from somebody who knows what they're doing, then do alternatives. If you're uncomfortable doing a barred squat, do goblet squats. If you're uncomfortable with deadlifts under normal circumstances, do hex bars or farmer's walks, which, by the way, I love doing. That's actually my favorite way to deadlift is with a hex bar. If you're uncomfortable with bench under normal circumstances, that is to say with a bar, you can use. You can also use dumbbells for that. So there's alternatives. There's always, no matter what your physiognomy, no matter what your level of comfort is, or your expertise or your knowledge, there's always something you can do. It just depends on the circumstances. Obviously, if you're paralyzed from the waist down, squats are kind of out of the picture, but it doesn't mean that you can't do any kind of anaerobic. That's the word I was looking for earlier, anaerobic exercise. to build muscle. And obviously, also, if you're a man or a woman, your goals are going to be different. I am strongly of the opinion, and this is just an opinion, that men should have a higher muscle mass than women. I don't understand why women want abs. You're supposed to be a little soft. Just saying. That's my opinion. Sorry. Um, but as far as physical health, nothing can compare. This is the more important topic. Walks are great. Aerobics are great. Anaerobics are great. I recommend all those things and I do all those things. But what I recommend most of all for physical health is eating healthy. And that means getting an adequate amount of calories, but not too many. Getting an adequate level of macros, that is to say proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, but not a disproportionate amount one way or the other. And most importantly, and also, this is less subjective, but some people might argue it's subjective, eating high quality foods, eating foods that are rich in nutrients, eating foods that are, back when I lost a tremendous amount of weight, one of my ways of doing this was I wouldn't have ice cream or pizza or alcohol except one day a week. That was my cheat day. And almost always ice cream won. Alcohol was maybe once every few months. But even with that, bearing that in mind, I highly encourage people to either track their calories if they have a weight issue or try intermittent fasting. I'm a big advocate. It's not for everybody, and so for some people it's also not sustainable. But for me, it's something I enjoy. It's both a time saver for me because then I have more time to do other productive things, and also I just happen to have the right appetite, metabolism, and glycemic something for it. What I mean by that is I don't get like sugar crashes from fasting. I don't get gnawing hunger pains from fasting. If I eat breakfast, it makes me want lunch, and it makes me want a snack, and it makes me want. It turns me into a hobbit, really. Whereas if I skip them, then I just have a really hearty, healthy, big, calorie-loaded dinner, and that's good for me, but it's not good for everybody. But looking into those things and eating healthier, and the other big one, I know it's been said a million times, but getting adequate water. 9 cups, in my opinion, is adequate for most men. People say 10 or 12. I think 9 is fine for most men, and I think 7 or 8 is adequate for most women. And it's a lot easier than it sounds because I remember when I quit soda, and every once in a while I'll still have soda, but when I quit soda, it seems insane to drink water. But then I realized, if I drink an adequate amount of water, just 8 ounces in the morning, first thing, which can even be in the form of tea, as long as it's not sweetened with anything, then I will crave water the rest of the day, and I'll drink water the rest of the day. And it's not difficult. The problem is people treat it like it's a sprint instead of a marathon. They try to down a very cold, for example, tall glass of water, and no, of course your body's going to not want you to have that, and you're going to feel awful drinking it. That's normal. Instead, opt for something room temperature or hot or however you like it, and if that happens to be in the form of tea or something, then that's completely going to work. And over time, that'll be easier. And as you wean off of the more sugary things, because sugar is the big problem with diet in our society. That's the big thing. Like, why are so many people obese? Because sugar is everywhere, because people eat a lot of it. That's the bulk of it. Carbs are a close second. And that leads me to the last component about diet for self-improvement, and that is if you are a man, get enough cholesterol, get enough saturated fats. I'm not saying eat a pork chop, which I'm not averse to at all. I'm just saying make sure that you get adequate saturated fats and adequate zinc and magnesium in order to produce testosterone. And the best way to do that is get a decent amount of sunshine. In other words, go outside once in a while. Use sunscreen if necessary. And get those micronutrients that you need, as well as the macros, in this case being fats. It doesn't have to be an insane amount, but this is just, for example, this is something I do. I get plenty of fish. I eat salmon probably about once a week. I just buy the fillets and I cook them. I eat shellfish from time to time in order to get enough zinc and magnesium. That can include tinned oysters. I eat a Brazil nut every day or so, usually. I mean, you know, because that has an adequate amount of selenium in it. By the way, Brazil nuts have so much selenium that if you eat too many, you can actually die from it. So be careful about that. Don't eat more than one a day, and maybe really one every other day or every 3 days. But just so you know, those micronutrients are very important for producing testosterone, and that's very important for it, like with walking. It's good for mental and physical health. So I think that about covers it. There might be a part two to the physical health, but those are just my recommendations, and I'm eager to hear what methods that you're taking to improve your physical health for self improvement general. Like, share, subscribe, keep asking questions. Bye.